the Smoky. Gold down on the Smoky. Gold down in that Smoky River mud. Yeehaw! Yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky. Gold down on the Smoky. Gold down in that Smoky River mud. Well, imagine, if you will, the year is 1852. Manifest destiny, the Irish potato famines, and a bad case of California gold fever has spawned a string of covered wagons, oxen, horses, and pioneers stretching all the way from Long Island clear on out to the state of Oregon. Well, they came from states and countries foreign, headed west to California, leaning hard against the wind and cold. From the East Coast they came overland, just pull up roots and change their plans, 'cause someone found that little chunk of gold. That's why there's gold down on the Smoky, Smoky. Gold down on the Smoky, Smoky. Gold down in that Smoky River mud. Yeehaw! Yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky, Smoky. Gold down on the Smoky, Smoky. Gold down in that Smoky River mud. Well, in the middle of it all, sprung up right alongside a well-used branch of the Santa Fe Trail, nestled in an oxbow on a northbound bend of the old Smoky River, was the sleepy little village of Lindsborg, Kansas. Population 200 men, women, and children, and every one of them came from Sweden with Pastor Ole Swenson. They came all the way from Sweden, looking for another Eden. They gave old Pastor Ole all their trust. Well, he led them halfway around the world, men and women, boys and girls. They settled down to plow the prairie dust. And that's why there's gold down on the Smoky. Oh no, why, huh? Gold down on the Smoky. Well, hang in there. I'm about to give you the whole story. There's a hint coming up real quick here. Yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky. Listen close. Gold down on the Smoky. Gold down in that Smoky River mud. Now, everyone in Lindsborg was Swedish, except for the widow Nelson. That's Ophelia McCleary Rodriguez Polanski Nelson, to be more specific. Now, McCleary was her real name, but all the rest belonged to dead husbands. She was a St. Louis showgirl who got herself hitched to one of Lindsborg's oldest and richest residents, old Swede Nelson, who owned the flour mill and a big chunk of Smoky River bottomland just south of town. That old Swede was not a lonely man. Wedlock wasn't in his plans. He worried mostly about his profit charms. Then he met that sweet Ophelia in a card game she was dealing. In a flash she stole his greedy little heart. And that's why there's gold down on the Smoky. Still doesn't quite explain everything though, does it? Gotta keep listening, there's a lot more story left here. Yeehaw! Yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky, as long as you feel like it. Gold down on the Smoky, gold down in that Smoky River mud. Now you see, old Swede had gone off to St. Louis to sell a team of draft horses to some German fellow that made beer. He was sitting down to a plate of supper in the casino, and he spied Ophelia dealing cards at the blackjack table. Now, he may have been half deaf, blind in one eye, and he had a hard time breathing some nights, what with his asthma and all, but he could see real good with his other eye. And Ophelia didn't take much time finding out which ear was working either. Wasn't more than a couple days before she had her next last name. When Swede showed up back in Lindsborg, everyone knew that old bachelor had his bride now. And his sister cried, and how he gave her all his money, and the farm, and the mill. Ophelia owned 1,000 acres, but she couldn't find a taker. When at last the old goat ate his final pill. And that's why there's gold down on the Smoky. still doesn't quite explain the whole story, so you gotta keep listening for a while here. Yeehaw! Yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky, gold down on the Smoky, gold down in that Smoky River mud. Well, when old Swede died, the widow tried to sell the place, but to no avail. She was forever stuck in Lynchburg, just a flower in the desert, she would call herself. More like a cactus, folks would say. Anyway, one day she spied some 49ers trying out their panning gear on the muddy banks of the old Smoky River, but to no avail. Well, they say she lit up like a jack-o'-lantern with her big idea. She bought some golden nuggets and had them planted in a likely ripple just below the dam. Well, she planted golden slivers in the muddy Smoky River, then whispered secrets to some mountain man. In a rush they tried their luck at digging mud up by the bucket and pouring it into their eager pans. And that's why there's gold down on the Smoky. Now you're getting the picture. Ophelia did the whole thing just to sell some of that bottom land. Yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky, gold down on the Smoky, gold down in that Smoky River mud. Well, about that time, just outside of town, there's this big rendezvous where trappers, Indians, buffalo hunters, and mountain men all came down from the hills for a big powwow. The widow gets the proper rumor started, and it isn't long before half that camp is panning through the sand and mud of the old Smoky River. Well, they came from places we don't know, just looking for a little gold. It didn't matter if that creek was dry. There were gamblers, tramps, and rovers, snake oil sellers, cattle drovers, the kind that just can't look you in the eye. That's why there's gold down on the Smoky, gold down on the Smoky, gold down in that Smoky River mud. Yeehaw! There's gold down on the Smoky, gold down on the Smoky, gold down in that Smoky River mud. When one of those gullible prospectors finally panned up the planted gold, pandemonium broke out all along the river, and it didn't take long for word to get back up the Pony Express Trail. All the way to St. Joe, wild riders hooped and hollered as they passed that false and fateful rumor to 1,000 eager pioneers. It wasn't long before every inch of the widow's river bottom was leased out to someone with a pan. You couldn't find an acre of the widow's land not taken by some low-life horse thief digging up a mine. Yes, they filled their empty pans with that old mother lode of Kansas, but it was only gravel they would find. And that's why there's no gold down on the Smoky. Ain't no gold down on the Smoky. Gold down in that Smoky River. Ain't no gold down in the Smoky. Ain't no gold down on the Smoky. Gold down on the Smoky. Gold down in that Smoky River mud. Well, as gamblers, gunslingers, hookers, and dance hall girls filter into town to mine this imaginary mother lode, they buy up land along the river from Widow Nelson, who makes a timely getaway long before the local folks rise up to thwart the onset of typical boomtown evils. And all because a lonely widow started the unlikely rumor that, yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky. But I think she was storying to you. Gold down in that Smoky River, but yeehaw! Yeah, there's gold down on the Smoky. I think that old prospector may be fibbing too. Smoky River.